Yo, so the biggest barrier in scaling in 2024 is quite challenging, right? Like a lot of times people feel like, oh, I can start a business, I can grow, I can make $1 million, I can make $2 million. Like, that ain't get it. I'm gonna tell you a few key ways on how you can start a business and then begin to scale it and don't go through the problems that I had to face. So number one, when you start a business, make sure that you set it up right. Like a lot of people would just start an LLC. Oh, I went and registered on the Secretary of State. Oh, I went and done this. Hey, but have you thought about your operating agreement? Have you thought about your succession plan and what that looks like? But also, have you thought about your budget? Like, who's your investors? How's those investors going to see you when you're running your business? And then ultimately, like, what do you plan to get out of that business? Number two, your mindset. And this really should have been number one, but number two is your mindset. You got to make sure you setting that business up, that your mindset is on point. A lot of times we start a business and we don't really realize that we are not the ones who maybe should be running their business. Maybe we're not conditioned to do so. Maybe there's some challenges that surround us that just may prohibit us from that. Or maybe, guess what? I'm the visionary, but I shouldn't be the one that got to go and run this. So you need to go find you a CEO right now. Finding you that CEO that can help you take that vision and that mission and then skyrocket and take it to the next level. Lastly, making sure that you do the proper market research. When you're doing the proper market research, you got to make sure that you are in a position that's going to help you to go to the next level. So making sure that, hey, I'm going to go do some business in fashion. Oh, I'm going to go do some business in retail. Making sure that while doing so, you are doing the proper research. And then also, are you the person even for the job in that market? Like, okay, I want to go break into the African-American community and sell this type of garment to these type of women. But you also got to realize, do I have the right marketing strategy? Have you even thought about how that business is going to go forward long-term as you market that business? Like, understand that these are just a few, 3 key ways that you can think about. And I know that's quite a bit. There's some other things that when you think about with scaling, right? We got to think about scaling can be difficult. Like, real talk. The first thing when we think about with scaling is that we just want to make money. But scaling is not just making money. Right now today, I got over 30 employees and I've done over $2 million in revenue in the last year. But my business is worth $20 million. I run 9 mission-based businesses. And I will tell you, the first time I made my first $1 million, and the second time I made this $2 million in the recent, it was very, very difficult. But I saw how I can continue to scale. So in the future, I have without a doubt that I do over $2, $3, $4, $5 million. But the hack that I figured out while doing this was that you gotta have the right talent. I had to let go a lot of the people that worked for me. So that means some of the folks that were my admins, people that was my managers, I couldn't work with them, right? They did not have the mindset to take me to where now I need to make over $5 million in revenue. Like, you gotta make sure you got the right talent. Having the right talent is gonna be really key. Another key feature is you gotta have the right systems. Making sure that your systems are and this is what I mean by this. You need to hire you someone that's an organizational development person, right? Or you need to also bring in folks who've been project managers, people who can help you to build out how-to lists, people that can help you to understand that, hey, I need to be able to create material and guides and checklists. So when I hire my 2 VAs or I got my first assistant, that they can follow the instructions. Because as an owner, as you're trying to scale, you don't have time to pick up the phone every 5 minutes. You don't have time to be stopping and going back over things over and over, because now you're losing revenue, now you're losing momentum. So these are just some things that you got to think about with scaling. But the most important thing with scaling is raising capital. Raising capital and understanding the capital markets. So myself, I've been in the nonprofit space. I'm also in the for-profit space. I'm also in the real estate space. I'm also in the workforce development space, and I got a few other ventures that do amazing things. And all my businesses focus on helping people and empowering people. But each one of those businesses, you have CDFIs, which is community development financial institutions. These are banks that are in communities at the local level that will help folks that may have had a lower credit score or people who's unable to get capital in traditional ways, like your Wells Fargo or your Bank of America. Sometimes those rigid requirements are harder for entrepreneurs who may not have a major track record. The other part about this is understanding your private investors, your angel investors, and also understanding, is your idea good enough for the venture capitalist market? Myself is about to enter that market, but I've had to do a lot of research. I've hired people to help me understand that when I step into this market, this is how I need to approach doing work in that market. Also understanding that there's certain type of funds in those markets that I need to be very mindful about. Meaning if you take that $1 million, this is the requirements that you got to turn that money over multiple times to give that investor back their return. These are just a few soft skill tips that you got to understand about working with investors. Lastly, is loans. Everybody can go out and get loans. Yes, you can go and get a loan, but guess what? With a loan, you must pay the money back. You cannot go out here and get money, borrow money, and not pay the money back. So important that we think about when we're making these decisions and building our businesses. Yes, you're gonna need other people's money. Yes, if you want a skill, you're gonna have to do this, and this is the only way you're gonna make it forward. I'll tell you, after 8 years of growing my businesses, and the number one business that I had in the mental health space, in the education and training space, is that I had to borrow money from every piece of capital market that I had to think of that helped my businesses grow forward. I had to get friends and borrow money from friends and even create loans in different ways that was untraditional for certain gap seasons of my business. You gotta be very advantageous. You gotta be forward thinking. Just recently, I brought me on a capital growth strategist in my business. I'm big on now a whole capital growth department because I recognize in scaling and want to build more work in my communities and helping my people, I gotta have money. You gotta be resourced. You cannot help people and not have the proper resources. If you like today what you're hearing, you need this business advice, you know this is gonna help you to scale, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Lorenzo P. Lewis, to get more of this business advice. Look forward to seeing you next time.